really? Okay.
Homework.
Yeah. I included a map just showing where these three areas are. Now, part of the asset management program, I gave you guys, or will give you guys, an updated gigantic spreadsheet with a lot of summary tables. And these tables are, the inventory tables are in ArcGIS. And the staff has access to all that. The tables can be updated in ArcGIS and exported to Excel. I've just found that's the most convenient way to share information. Everybody has Excel. Your vertical inventory overview. Of course, you have the wastewater treatment facility built around 1980. Big upgrade in 2000. New emergency generator in 2016. And a phosphorus removal system was added in 2006. And these are all approximate dates.
Is that system in failure, or is it just the regulations have changed?
No, I don't think it's,
For the phosphorus.
yeah, I don't know that it's in failure. I think the issue is that it's a limiting factor for your wastewater treatment facility. The phosphorus system can handle about 80,000 gallons per day. And your treatment facility is sized for 119,000 gallons per day, max month. And you're approaching that, you have approached that max at times. So you're starting to bump up against a flow limitation. And you also have this phosphorus removal limitation.
So we're bumping up against the 119. So we're exceeding the capacity of phosphorus.
Not all the time, but some.
Right, exactly.
What's our norm? What am I supposed to?
What's your-
Yeah, we're really close to running that max, right?
What is it?
We're close to running that max, and then it's 80, and then.
The max flow is 119, and you've come within, I think, 34,000 gallons of that. So close.
But on average, what's our norm? What would drive that? In other words, if we're below the 80, what drives that spike on occasion?
Well, we're not sure about. It could be that you've got some INI in the system, and that's why I'm recommending the CCTV and the inspections. So if it's happening during months where you have a lot of rain, that might be what it is.
Putting some pumps into the sewer.
Well, yeah, if people have their sump pumps connected to the sewer, that would certainly do it.
You'll find out when you do a smoke test.
Not in this.
Smoke up the house.
Yeah, yeah. That's exactly right, so. Probably a smoke test would flush that out.
Slide mentioned we are doing a pilot program to try to treat for the phosphorus as well, so that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, remember that Joe was telling us about it over there, it's when.
All right. Oh yeah, you also had an energy audit done that was, the final revision date on that was 2023, so very recent. And the main recommendation on that one was that 2 of the blowers at the lagoon facility are equipped with VFDs and 1 is constant speed. So the recommendation was put a VFD on the constant speed blower. But I would imagine when the wastewater treatment facility evaluation is done, one of the things they're going to look at is the size of the blowers.
The acronym spelled out on these.
What's a VFD?
Oh, sorry.
Variable frequency drive.
Yes.
I was asking for Bill.
Well, exactly.
I knew what it was.
And Jimmy.
Everybody else knows except for me.
Yeah.
It's all right, it's not somebody,
I don't remember.
I'm not really proud of knowing.
What was it again?
Something that comes up a
Variable
lot.
frequency drive. It starts the pump up slower, so it's not a big start.
Okay, right. It matches the speed of the pump to the system conditions to conserve energy.
Actually speeds up, so it's down.
Yeah, but it,
It's not just stop.
it only uses the amount of electricity
Yeah,
instead of just going on.
Right, instead of just charging ahead.
Yep.
All right. Other vertical inventory, by the way, I didn't explain this, I don't think, but by vertical inventory, I mean things like your wastewater treatment facility and your pumping stations. And then horizontal is your gravity mains, your manholes, your force mains, buried stuff versus above the ground stuff. So you've got the Spring Street ejector station. That's original to around 1980. And pretty much everything is original according to the information I have, but no complaints as to how it works. You know, it's performing, it's doing okay, but probably something to keep an eye on because it's getting up there.
Yeah, we made some improvements there this summer, or this spring.
Oh, did you?
So, upgraded the electrical panel.
Okay, good.
Put a winch on the guy that goes down,
And some safety features.
safety features,
Excellent.
big safety features,
Yeah,
fence around it.
I'll get to this a little bit later, but you know, one of the things we do in this asset management program is to kind of rank the assets by their importance, and I always rank safety the highest.
Makes sense.
I used to work at a battery manufacturing facility and there were some gnarly injuries over there, so it's always on my mind. The Wilson Pond Road pumping station and the Route 32 pumping station, they're part of the North Swanzey system, which was built around 2007. So, you know, they're in pretty good shape. The only items there that were coming to the end of their useful lives were the gas detector and the chart recorder, because those are short-lived assets. And you guys actually might have replaced those already. It just, you know, wasn't in my notes. But those are in good shape.
They have new roofs too this spring. We did new roofs.
Oh, really?
Standing steel.
She brought my pen with me. I need to be writing these things down. Oh.
Special.
And that's those TM.
Words.
We can hold on until we're done.
Okay, good. I can change the table then. The energy evaluation included the pumping stations, and he didn't have much to recommend. He just said to adjust the wearing plate clearance. And he's referring to the pumps there. All right, critical assets and priority projects. So when we set up these inventory tables and start populating them, we assign an impact of failure score. Like, how important is this asset? What bad thing will happen if this asset fails? So like I said earlier, the safety stuff, I usually give a 5 to railings and grading and that sort of thing. The gas detector, even though it's small, it's important. And then the probability of failure is informed by the condition of the asset. That's kind of the first thing we look at if we have that information. And the age and material of the asset, and also the performance, like, is it sized correctly? You know, is it able to do its job? And these all go from on a scale of 1 to 5. And we do 1 to 5 because it aligns with the pipeline assessment certification program, which is if you have a contractor come in and CCTV your gravity mains, they're going to assign a score to what they're seeing down there from 1 to 5, 1 being in great shape, 5 being a very serious defect. So when you get that done and you get that information back, you can enter it into your tables and it will make sense. Probability of failure. So the probability of failure, I go by condition score if I have it, and if I don't, I base it on remaining useful life. So an asset that has exceeded its remaining useful life gets a probability of failure of 5, which is, bad.
The ejector on Spring Street, how did you evaluate, or how would you evaluate?
Well, that one, I didn't give it as high of an impact of failure as the pumping stations because it serves, it doesn't serve as many people. So that one, I gave that a lower impact of failure, but a higher probability of failure because of its age.
That's at 40+ years, is that normal? Or
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think the mechanical components and electrical components, if you get 40 years out of those, you're doing well. And we multiplied these two together, the probability of failure and the impact of failure to get a risk score, and then you can use those to rank your assets from the highest risk to the lowest. We can also plot these on a criticality chart. So the first chart is just clean without anything on it, so you can read it. But the next chart, I plotted all your assets on it, and it looks like little, Dan Drucker, please, or something, but it just kind of gives you the general drift about your system. And a lot of your assets are in that limited monitoring section, which is good. They're in good shape. They're not, they don't have a high impact of failure. And that's because so much of your collection system is new. I mean, North Swansea is your newest system and it's also your largest. So, and gravity mains and manholes, those are very long lived. So even everything in West Swansea by age would kind of fall into that lower risk category. The things that are kind of up in the priority renewal area and the highest risk are mostly in your vertical assets because those tend to have shorter useful lives. So these are items at the wastewater treatment facility and Spring Street. All right, so I estimated the replacement cost of your wastewater treatment system, and I came up with almost $52 million. Is that surprising to anybody?
Wouldn't have had a clue. So.
You should have made us guess.
I should have not.
26, 23 years ago.
Next time I'll bring the prizes. And there's a pie chart below that. I also rank this by, highest to lowest. So North Swansea is the biggest one. West Swansea the collection systems are usually the big dollars. And of course, the wastewater treatment facility. Now, the way prices are these days, I was talking to a colleague today and he's like, I was asking him questions about how do I price these things right now? And he said, I'm not very good at estimating right now. I said, nobody is. So I'm gonna take another look at these before I finalize the report, but the prices are just crazy. Just shoot you straight and tell you that.
In a sewer system, are the flow meters like there are on water systems?
Not typically, you could put, I mean, you could put them on a pressure main. And you can actually put like a flume on a gravity pipe. But that's pretty expensive to do, like you'll see a flume in like a meter vault, it's like a manhole. And then there's a flume in there with an ultrasonic level transducer, and that's how it measures flow.
I don't think I asked the question correctly, but.
Well, I was gonna say,
With a typical home with water and sewer, there's a water meter in the home or the business.
right,
Is there anything like that? So we're just stuck with flat rates.
not necessarily, a lot of utilities will bill sewer based on water use. I actually worked at
They
it,
don't have a way to measure it. So
you don't have a way to measure. You don't have an accurate and cheap way to
we
measure,
have no way to measure it
right,
because we don't control the water.
oh, I see,
In West Swansea, it's also,
It's
Okay.
kind of factored into the rate though, because in North Swansea, they use the water meter use. And then you factor in the rate for basically the summertime, because some of the water's not going into the sewer system. But in the wintertime, pretty much all of it's going into the sewer system, so. You know, you set your rate, the rate is not the same as water, it's different. Those for north, yeah,
but how do you measure west? That's what,
you just have to, you know, that's a flat use per metric. I think it's an EPA number, right, that for usage report that you can use,
well,
find your
I
rate.
mean, obviously you know what's coming in because you're measuring at the treatment facility. How do you allocate it? I mean, a number of ways, if you don't have water bills to fall back on. I know I came from a wastewater utility in Florida, and initially we based it on tables in the health code. So, you know, if you're, let's say, building a new single family home and you want to put a septic tank on it, there's a table that tells you how to size that septic tank and what the estimated flow would be, and it's always higher than what it is in real life. But if you're kind of allocating it to everybody, rather than, you know, just saying, well, this is the flow and this is the cost based on that flow. It's an okay way to do it. Of course, metering water is the best if you can. Is there no water service in West Swansea, or is that,
So, PUC,
okay,
private. But the big apartment buildings have meters on them, so
okay,
their sewer charges based on it. Single family homes, pretty much are all just flat fee.
mhm. Okay. So one of the things we did as part of this asset management program is schedule out when each of your assets are gonna need to be replaced. And this is, you know, this is an estimate based on what we think the estimated useful life of the asset is and when it was installed. So I came up with this schedule. And there's a table called 10-year look ahead, and that's a summary of that schedule. And this isn't, you know, this isn't carved in stone, it's an estimate. And as you get out there and start gathering information about the condition, you're gonna find maybe some things you thought were in great condition have problems, or something you thought, boy, this thing's gonna be a mess, it's fine. So when you can really start to nail this stuff down is when you're doing condition assessments. And just looking at it. That's the CCTV inspections, the manhole inspections, things like that. And I kind of explain that on the next slide. Why do I call it a look at? It forms the basis for identifying when existing assets might need attention. It does not anticipate expansions or upgrades due to growth or process changes. And, you know, that would apply to the wastewater treatment facility. You're gonna have that evaluation done, and, you know, there'll be some pricing and recommendations in there about what you might need to do. I came up with an estimated, actually should be 3.3 million, I typed 3.2, but it's 3.3 million in estimated replacement costs over the next 10 years.
For the whole small systems.
Everything. I made some assumptions to arrive at that number. Costs assume full replacement value are in $2024. It's based on estimated end of useful life, like I said, condition might influence that, capacity might influence that. The actual cost, I think, is likely to come in lower. You're gonna find a lot of your assets are still in serviceable condition despite their age. And repair and renewal costs can come in lower than will come in lower than full replacement. You might find it's feasible to line some of your gravity mains in poor condition, and that's maybe a half to 2/3 the cost of a full replacement, so.
How long does a line work?
Probably, so the estimate on that is 50 years. Yes. Yes, but a brand new PVC main would be 75 years. So you have to do the math. Lining is good if you have a lot to do. And you don't want to tear up everywhere in town, and you need to save some money.
You know, we need to do that.
Everybody. I also did a 100-year look ahead. That might sound crazy, but some of these assets are very long-lived. A precast manhole might have a life of 75 years. PVC gravity main might have a life of 75 years. Ductile iron, 85. If you have any cast iron out there, that stuff lasts forever, 100+. So sometimes this is useful. In your case, your big humps are a few decades out. If you say you had a lot coming due for replacement in 2034 to 2043, that would be good to know. Because, you know, in the upcoming years, you'll be making decisions about rate setting and financing projects, and, you know, do we lower rates when we pay off our loans, or do we start rolling into the next round of projects? So it's handy for helping you see what's over the next hill.
So when you look at the 3.3 for three services, the bulk of the 3.3 is in West Swanzey, because it's the aged system. What do we have in reserves?
That's probably better answered by Michael, but I think looking at your 2023 financials, it was 120,000 was the fund balance,
No,
more than that.
we have a few different capital reserve funds, and then sewer fund balance, I thought was close to $1 million, just in the sewer fund. So, I mean, it's not,
For the whole system.
yes, the sewer fund is for the whole system. And then each individual, there's one for north, there's one for west, and then I think there's one for expansions for capital reserves. So there's a few different. I can try to find some info on that.
Right, so financial planning. Ensure staffing is sufficient to complete monitoring, maintenance, and AMP update tasks. I believe you have all the staff you need right now. You've got the operating company. Scott Schultz is on the phone with us. I don't know if he's met or just helping out.
As a silent appreciated observer, helper.
Yes. Established adequate asset renewal budget. The next 10 years, like I said, this asset management plan only covers existing assets. You're gonna have the wastewater treatment plant evaluation, so there might be some upgrades and changes there. For replacement cost over 10 years, 3.3 million. If we assume, you know, half of that, 1.67. I put in a number for condition assessment for West Swansea, and I envisioned you doing a third of the system each year for 3 years. And I estimated that would cost about 45,000 total, so roughly 15,000 a year. It can be cheap insurance if you've got, you know, if you do your inspection, and you find, oh my gosh, I have a gusher, you know. Good to tackle that. And of course, the cost to upgrade the wastewater treatment facility to be determined.
It's not part of the 3.3.
Not part of the 3.3. I have no idea. So the overall operation of the asset management program, this might sound like Greek, so feel free to ask questions. But the town purchased the ArcGIS software. We mapped the system, provided it to the town, populated the inventories, and those are all on the town's ArcGIS online account right now. And they are linked to some electronic forms, which are made in an app called Survey 123, which is part of ArcGIS. I don't know if you guys are using those.
Not at this time.
Yeah, people.
So is that something where we could identify structures by age?
Yes, if you, like, you can click on a manhole and get a pop-up. And it gives you all the information about that particular manhole. Or you can query, you know, if you want to say, well, what's the average age of our manholes? You can do that too. So ArcGIS Pro is the desktop software, and that's probably the best place to update the inventory files and export to the financial planning spreadsheet. Story maps and dashboards, I explained earlier. You can use for internal communication, but I think mostly staff will have access to ArcGIS. So probably that will mostly be used for public outreach. And the financial planning spreadsheet, that's where all the tables in this presentation came from, all the tables in the report, the charts, the criticality graph, all that was from querying the spreadsheet. So next steps, of course, is the wastewater treatment facility evaluation. An evaluation of the West Swanzey system, CCTV inspections, structure inspections. And then use that information to update the inventory, identify projects. And at some point, there will need to be capital improvement plan and a rate study. To figure out how to pay for all this. All the needed asset renewals.
What's the timing on, because we've known this for a couple of years. What would be the timing of putting that together? The rate study and capital reserve plan? What we need?
Well, I mean, I think you'll want to get the wastewater treatment facility evaluation done first. Then you know what projects you have to do there. In the meantime, you can do the CCTV inspections at West Swansea. See what's going on there and see what projects you might have to do in that area. And then you can, you can schedule these out. And once you know, and when you're doing sewer projects in a road, most people, of course, want to combine them with roadway and paving. Or if you have other assets that you're responsible for, like stormwater and need upgrades, you want to do all that at the same time. So most people aren't going to say, oh, this gravity main is in the worst shape. They're going to say, well, if gravity main is in okay shape, the road is in terrible shape, and the drainage is in the worst shape. So let's do this area first. So it's not necessarily driven by just one asset. It's like, okay, what does it make sense to do with everything taken together?
I understand the need to know that information to build a capital reserve plan. But what I don't understand is why wouldn't we just be implementing a rate study? So that, because that's immaterial with regard to what our needs are. That's trying to obviously balance the revenue as needed. And then the capital reserve, we already know we need to raise 3.3 million over the course of the next 10 years or something like that. So we've got a basis to start with. We know our connection fees are grossly inadequate. So why wouldn't we look at those while all this other studying is being done?
I mean, you could. So when we do rate models, we incorporate the, planned capital improvements, and we'll take, say, half of, the 10-year value, like I was talking about here, and incorporate that in the asset management program too, and also building reserves. So you could, and I think a rate study should be done every 5 years at least. Because this is, like I said, it's a conveyor belt, it's always going to be coming. And rate studies are, I don't know what we charge for those now, but they're not, in the scheme of things, they're not that expensive. And if you've already got one, then it's just a matter of updating. And when we do them, we run scenarios too, so it'd be like best case, worst case, likeliest. You guys are interesting because you have the 3 different systems. And
Very different rates and different rate structure.
very different. I actually read it wasn't a rate study per se, but it was kind of a review of your rates. It was interesting.
Glenn Page was the CERT mission chair for many years. I'm sure Bill knows exactly what I'm gonna say, but he would come in during the budget review every year and say, West Swansea has some of the lowest rates in the state, and North Swansea has some of the highest rates in the state. They always told us we had plenty of money too. I'm not sure it's coming to fruition, but the other part was that.
Right.
And I was able to check the sewer fund has over $800,000. The North Capital Reserve Fund has over 400,000 and the West has over 200. So not millions, but more than
Significant.
With some engineering.
How do we determine hitting the max level at the West Swansea plant? What kind of steps can we take to try to understand why that's happening? And the reason I'm asking is we know we've got somebody who's interested in adding another 90 units of housing where they can't connect, but if they were able, the only reason I understand they can't connect is because of the phosphorus. So if the was my understanding. So if the phosphorus comes under control, they still can't connect because we would exceed on those peak days, we would exceed our capacity, if I understood you correctly.
Possibly not. But, you know, that might be as simple as doing some repairs out of the system.
But we were looking at it, that Joe had something like.
Yes, we're doing the pilot study, and then we're doing the facilities. I think your points are good, but I think they were somewhat outside the scope of the specific aspects.
Margaret's got such a wealth of knowledge and a broad range of experience.
Rather, you try to keep asking to get the answer you're looking for.
Oh, this is great. You've done a phenomenal job. Very appreciate it.
Thank you very much. A lot of good information there.
Hey,
Spent a lot of our money.
Leave
Very
for
wise.
more questions or homework assignments.
Thank you very much for your work.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you.
thank you. Thanks for your
Thanks,
time.
Margaret.
Fire station 2 water damage.
This is mainly informational based on the amount of money we're looking at, but that's some water issues down there, nothing new, but. Two areas in the meeting room that suffered some pretty significant damage. So we got a quote from filed through Primex. They said it's probably deferred maintenance. So not something they're going to cover. The deductible, at least for this phase of it, is the deductible is more than what we're looking at anyway, so not a big deal. But so we're looking at tri-state, remove the damaged area and any mold that's in there. And then the next phase will be to figure out what goes back, hopefully identify. You know, it's gonna take it apart and then kind of leave it, so you can hopefully maybe diagnose what's causing the water damage. So that's all we're doing at this point, but where there's going to be some cost to this, put it back. Make sure it works. Yeah, it's just
I found the quote very funny. I mean, the quote that he's asking is $600 to rip out all those cabinets. I thought that was really low. I thought it was gonna be 3,000, 4,000, but
Looks like it's donating $400.
yeah.
Community service.
I just was surprised at that quote. I mean, it's a no-brainer. We just gotta take a look behind the wall and see what's going on. And then we can evaluate it then.
Sounds good.
Okay. What was the reason that was deferred? That it wasn't reported on time or?
well, no, I think it wasn't it because you said it was groundwater, right? You were there, the insurance guy was there, I don't know. I believe you.
No, it said it was leaking for a while, so that's why the mold built up. You know, behind the wall it was leaking.
Groundwater, they don't cover.
So if it was a leaking pipe, they would, but
It's been going on for years. You know, when we fixed the whole station, the whole heating room, basically, after we redid everything. Started redoing it. A year.
I'd like to, honestly, looking at it, I think it's in our best interest and is to try something a little more simple to divert the water away from the building, is put some gutters in the back of the town hall in there with a drain, push the water away from the building versus Mike wants to put roofing over those windows, but my thought is the water's still gonna come off that little roof and still come close enough to the wall. And so my thought is we should try some gutter out there. That's a lot of roof you got. That's a lot of water coming off that roof. That's a big span that grabs all that water, you know? So if we put gutters and we put a gutter on the other piece, and we brought the drain pipe down and we made the water run out into the parking lot, farther away from them, I think that would solve a lot of our problems, just trying that, which it isn't gonna hurt, you know? Cause the water comes down very close and splashes up against to, I get the roof, but I think the roof is gonna be very costly, you're gonna have to flash all under the shingles versus, let's put some gutters up there and say, we'll take it step by step and look at it. But I think that might be a good way to look at it right at the beginning.
If they shovel the snow off the ramp, maybe throw it away from the building instead.
Correct, all that, slide, you're right. We need to get the water away from that back there.
Every margin.
Good, yes, sir.
Whitcomb Hall Furniture, one of the first, we can go sit in Jimmy's new chairs.
I'll get you that catalog, I think I got one on the chairs first, we'll take a look at it. Like I said, there's a lot to chairs that I had learned about, because I had like 250 of them for the room, it was a big cost. But you know, they got some braces, some foldable, some stackable cushions, sewing.
What are you doing with your old chairs?
I got rid of them already.
Are they comfortable?
They were just pushing down. Huh?
Current period.
The cover,
What about the old one? How would you rate the old ones?
I got it because of his retirement party, he didn't want to sit on those chairs. and have
Oh,
falls,
okay.
so I made sure. I put
Are his
that
old
on.
chairs better or worse than these chairs?
Oh, my chairs are much better than these.
Yes, the old ones though.
Yeah, these are child's play.
Yes.
Yeah. Mine got massages in the back.
Any old business?
Did you want to do the mower that I think the mower?
That's seven.
The capital improvement program had 13,000 budgeted to purchase a new mower this year. He demoed, the DPW demoed a new, basically stand-up mower versus the sit-down. And I guess the crew was able to take it for a demo, they tried it, they like it, it's a little cheaper as well. So we'd be looking for $11,000 from the highway and cemetery equipment capital reserve fund to purchase it.
Maybe by standing, they stand and they on flat.
Yep.
They impose them around. Our mower that we have now is no good.
1,150 hours sold on municipal. Could be yours.
What do you do with the old one? Sell it?
Yep, we use a website called Municipal, so it's like an auctioning website, they take 10%. We've never had anything where we thought we could have gotten more for that, it's always like, at least someone wants to pay that for
Is that right?
land, trucks, we've had.
You make a motion on that?
Yes, please.
Make the motion.
Second. Motion made and seconded, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye, ayes have it. Administrative update?
So we did distribute the May staff report, which got back to or the April. Report. If you don't mind, if you want me, maybe just go over some of the brief highlights for each department or division within town hall. So administrative assistant, Whitcomb Hall has used 27 days in April and had 7 paid rentals. She also worked on coordinating event committee meetings, which included the Northlands application for the upcoming years. Finance had the independent auditors for town for the 2023 audit. And that included a single audit last year due to the significant federal funds received. It was a significant time commitment, both when the auditors were here, preparing and after, so great job, and I'm expecting another successful audit.
Are the issues that she referred to being resolved?
With the audit,
Just with the new software?
Finance?
The last sentence.
I think it's a thing Christine worked on.
Oh, the New Hampshire retirement system. Uh, Yes, she's working on it. Yeah, so that's through the New Hampshire retirement system. That's a state software out there. They have a system. That's. Yeah, we're working on resolving those. I can check it.
I'm just curious.
Yep. Good question. Tax collector did the annual leaning of unpaid 2023 property and utility bills, which totaled just under 300,000. In his duties as emergency management director, he attended a tabletop training exercise at Surrey Mountain Dam and Otter Brook Dam, dam failures, which obviously is with our 3 dams, it's a good training for him to go to. The town clerk collected over about 165,000 in town vehicle fees and did nearly 500 dog licenses. And they also had a demo with Avatar for motor vehicle registration software. It's the same software we use for tax and assessing. So fingers crossed, when you will join the Avatar family, which will help our ability to accept benefits. Human services, and I mentioned that housing for people receiving assistance with low income continues to be a challenge, no surprise. She does a great job trying to find resources and opportunities. She has several long-term cases of elderly, mainly elderly residents on Social Security, very low incomes. Mentioned that with all the housing being constructed is great, but it really doesn't generally serve these folks, at least without town assistance. On the HR side, she mentioned that she participated on the HR coordinator recruitment process, which led to us hiring Sebastian Blinkers. He started a few weeks ago. And she also mentioned the new mandatory online tax reporting system, which was very challenging, but they would not be defeated and they were successful. So
She also mentioned that other towns third party that. Is that something that is annual that we should consider, or was this a one time?
something we discussed, by the time we realized kind of how problematic it was going to be. I think it may be a little late to do that, so I think that's something where Sebastian will be handling that this year. I think that's something we want to look at soon to see if it is something we want to sub out. I was kind of surprised, some of it, quite frankly, that it wasn't something that Health Trust does, where they're our health insurance provider, but they consider us self-insured through basically that being like the risk pool and like Primex. So yeah, I think it's worth looking at. So I don't think the costs to outsource it are huge. I think it's about $1,000.
This reads like it was a challenge.
It was that and more.
Might have led to an earlier retirement.
It was that, it almost did, I think. Yeah, it was that and more. So she has fully transitioned over on onboarding for Sebastian to human services welfare, which will be going to part-time next month. Years of my return.
Well deserved.
Yes, indeed, over 10 years. Planning department, we onboarded and acclimated for new town planner Adam Paquette, who started in April. And he submitted a project to the state's 10-year transportation plan, the project we talked about, North Swansea for corridor and pedestrian improvements. And several items, as usual, were prepared and acted upon by the zoning planning boards, and progress continues on several of the development projects in town. Code enforcement on town facility projects, Mike worked on the Grange roof RFP, which was issued and then reissued. Several items at the Carpenter home. He's also making progress on several zoning and site plan compliance issues, working with town council. So I think that's been going in a positive direction. It takes a lot of time. It's not easy, but he's been sticking with the council's.
Is there anything that we can provide with some of the ongoing issues to support?
I think the use of town council has been, you mentioned, has been promising.
How are we coming with the opportunity to expand those who are working with him to help him in his daily activities? We met on 4 or 5 months ago. how are we coming on that process?
Ongoing,
Going to a conclusion, so.
to be discussed further. Or, yes, that's.
Lot of help.
I know. Appreciate it. Health officer can work on a housing complaint and 2 school inspections and also training on cyanobacteria and a new lead law. Assessing met with the contracted assessor and DRA, Department of Revenue Administration, to prepare for the 2024 evaluation and assessment review. And she did an excellent job chasing down a number of outstanding timber and gravel tax items. He has been working with the contracted assessor on abatements for last year that were filed by May 1st. And will be responded to by July 1st. Now that the warrant's done, that will be our next focus to get those wrapped up, hopefully in the next week or 2. Recycling center, Josh has oriented several new staff members coming on board, spring facility cleanup, and working on marketing and selling various commodities. Police department, they made some improvements, to the administrative office and booking room, new police officer, or new police cruiser, excuse me. Official promotion of Sergeant Clark, and Officer Titus graduated from the New Hampshire Police Academy. 634 calls for service.
What's our roster now with people out on short term? How many active do we have?
I would not want to try to guess that up. Go through the list.
And how was the sign-on bonus? You see, is that helpful in terms of bringing new people in?
It has not been, it hasn't been, no one's stated it's not. I think it's going in the right direction. Fire department, we had the chief officer reorganization and promotions. They had the annual awards dinner, which several of us went to, and 75 calls for service. Public works, various sewer department items, preparing for multiple summer bridge and road projects. Spring cleanup, and recreation had Sweep Up Swanzey in their spring kickball league, and hiring other accommodations for camp and other activities.
Not going out, yes, sir.
We need anything from us for Dennis Thompson Bridge.
Not at this time. We'll hopefully get some more financial info and put on next meeting's agenda.
Correspondence? Any public input before we go non-public?
6 active group.
I was gonna give us 8, but 6.
Few of the trucks out, Mary's out,
No.
and then
Down to
5 next week.
Probably could put our admin, but we mentioned brownfield.
Yeah.
Study getting wrapped up. Is that something you'd like that? We talked about having, we didn't have it in the original scope, but I thought it'd be helpful, like I mentioned over to have kind of a wrap up presentation. Think that would be good here, or you think, would you like to see that at the planning board? Or it's like, or they're more used to looking at it.
You guys, sorry, be a Thursday night. Do a planning board meeting for the brownfield. Wrap up before it gets out to bid.
It's not going to bid yet. It's before we start.
Goes in for finance. Yeah.
This Thursday.
No, it'd be just would you like it at a select board meeting, or do you like it at a planning? board? Which I, so let you know. Just asking if you have a preference venue.
You think if the planning board has an opportunity to review it, like they would any other item on their agenda, so that they can bring their expertise to it, I would be in favor of the planning board.
Very good. That's what I thought made sense, but I want to make sure you agree.
That's it.
You know, non-public for
Question I would have on it is who's running the meeting?
So if it was a planning board meeting, we'd have Stevens and Associates there, present as if they were the field stuff.
the chairs, but I think we're gonna be sitting up there.
One's upstairs, like that.
I'll bring it to you.
BYO chairs.
What are we going in under E?
E for consideration of pending claims and litigation.
There you
Good for you guys sticking with it. That was a,
Thank you, guys.
thanks.
Right.